The garage smelled like motor oil and broken dreams, but at least it was honest about what it was. Unlike my wife Jessica, who was upstairs right now telling some guy named Chad how her husband couldn't find excitement if it came with GPS coordinates and a neon sign. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I should have been angry. Hell, I should have been devastated. Instead, I found myself laughing as I adjusted the audio settings on my laptop. Jessica had no idea that her precious video calls were bouncing through our home network, and our home network was my domain. Being a cybersecurity consultant had its perks. God, Ethan is so boring. Jessica's voice drifted through my speakers with crystal clarity. He spends more time with his computers than he does with me. At least you know how to make a woman feel alive, Chad. Chad. Even his name sounded like it belonged on a participation trophy. I took a sip of my beer and continued listening to my wife of 12 years explain to her lover how she deserved better than a blue-collar tech nerd who thinks romance is fixing her laptop. The irony wasn't lost on me. If I was such a tech nerd, maybe she should have been more careful about her digital footprint. "When are you going to leave him?" Chad asked, his voice carrying that particular brand of arrogance that comes from selling overpriced cars to desperate people. "Soon," Jessica purred. "I just need to figure out the financial situation first. He's not rich, but he's got some assets. The house, his business, that vintage Mustang he thinks I don't know about." My hand tightened around the beer bottle. The Mustang was my father's car, the one thing I had left of him after the cancer took him last year. Jessica knew exactly what that car meant to me. "Besides," she continued, "I want to make sure I get everything I deserve. Ethan might be boring, but he's not stupid. I need to be smart about this." Smart. Right. The woman who used password 123 for everything until I forced her to upgrade thought she could outsmart me. I closed the laptop and walked to my workbench, where I kept my real projects, the ones Jessica didn't know about, like the comprehensive monitoring system I'd installed throughout our house after I first suspected something was wrong. All perfectly legal, of course. It was my house, my network, my equipment. The evidence I'd collected over the past 3 months painted a clear picture. Jessica wasn't just cheating, she was planning. Hotel receipts, credit card statements, even consultations with divorce lawyers. She'd been methodical, thinking she was covering her tracks. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated the boring tech nerd she'd married. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Barry, who ran the local boxing gym where I still trained 3 times a week. "Beer tomorrow night? You've seemed off lately." Barry was old school, 50-something, built like a brick wall, and loyal to a fault. He'd been trying to get me to talk about whatever was eating at me, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. I texted back, "Rain check. Working on a project." That was true enough. I was working on a project. The biggest project of my life, actually. Operation Jessica's Comeuppance. The house creaked above me as Jessica moved around upstairs, probably getting ready for bed. She'd come down in a few minutes, kiss me on the cheek, and tell me she loved me. The same routine we'd followed for months while she planned my destruction. But tonight felt different. Tonight, I'd heard enough. I opened my laptop again and began typing. If Jessica wanted to play games, I'd show her what a real player looked like. The next morning, Jessica bounded into the kitchen with the kind of enthusiasm she usually reserved for sales at expensive boutiques. "Good morning, honey." She kissed my cheek, her perfume still carrying hints of whatever she'd worn for Chad last night. "I was thinking, maybe we should take a vacation soon. Somewhere exotic. Europe, maybe?" I looked up from my coffee and newspaper, playing the role of oblivious husband. "Europe? That's expensive, Jess. Business has been slow lately." Her smile faltered for just a moment. Oh, come on. We never do anything fun anymore. When's the last time we were spontaneous? Spontaneous costs money we don't have right now. I turned a page of the newspaper, not looking at her. Maybe we could do a weekend in the mountains instead. There's that cabin Barry's always talking about. A cabin. Her voice went flat. With Barry. He wouldn't come with us, Jessica. It's just a suggestion. She huffed and moved to the coffee maker, her good mood evaporating. This was new. Usually she'd push harder when she wanted something. The fact that she was backing down so easily meant she had another plan. I'm meeting Marina for lunch today, she said, changing the subject. Girl talk. You know how it is. Marina, Jessica's best friend and business partner in what they generously called a wellness consultancy. In reality, Marina ran a high-end spa that catered to wealthy women who wanted to feel important while spending their husband's money. Tell Marina I said hi, I replied, still reading the paper. After Jessica left, I got to work. The first phase of my plan required setting some bait, and I knew exactly what would catch her attention. I created a new credit card account, a premium card with a high limit, linked to a separate checking account I'd opened months ago. The kind of card that would be perfect for, say, an expensive European vacation. Then I left the paperwork where Jessica would find it, tucked between some bills on the kitchen counter. The beauty of the plan was its simplicity. Jessica would see the card, assume I'd been hiding money from her, and use it to fund whatever scheme she and Chad were cooking up. What she wouldn't know was that every transaction would be monitored, tracked, and recorded. While I waited for the trap to spring, I decided to do some reconnaissance. Chad worked at Premier Auto Sales, a mid-tier dealership that specialized in convincing people they needed cars they couldn't afford. I'd driven past it a few times but never stopped in. Today seemed like a good day to change that. The lot was full of shiny vehicles with price tags that made my mortgage payment look reasonable. I wandered around for a few minutes before a salesman approached. Not Chad, unfortunately, but a younger guy who looked like he'd graduated from high school last week. Can I help you find something? He asked. Just looking, I replied. My wife mentioned you had a good reputation here. She heard about it from a friend. Oh yeah? What's your wife's name? Maybe I know her. Jessica Thompson. She might have mentioned a salesman named Chad. The kid's face lit up. Oh, Chad Morrison. Yeah, he's our top guy. Real smooth operator, if you know what I mean. He winked, and I had to resist the urge to punch him. Smooth operator. Right. I nodded. Is he around today? Nah, he's off until tomorrow, but I can help you with whatever you need. I spent another 10 minutes letting the kid show me cars I had no intention of buying, gathering information about Chad's schedule and habits. By the time I left, I had a pretty good picture of my wife's lover's routine. That evening, Jessica was unusually quiet during dinner. She kept glancing at the kitchen counter where I'd left the credit card paperwork. Everything okay? I asked, playing innocent. Fine, she said quickly. Just tired. Marina and I talked for hours today. About what? Oh, business stuff. Boring business stuff. After dinner, I retreated to the garage while Jessica cleaned up. I didn't have to wait long. Within an hour, I received an alert on my phone. Someone was accessing the new credit card account online. I pulled up the monitoring software and watched as Jessica navigated through the account details, her digital fingerprints all over my carefully laid trap. She was checking the credit limit, the available balance, even the rewards program. Hook, line, and sinker. My phone rang, interrupting my surveillance. Barry's name appeared on the screen. What's up? I answered. You tell me. You've been weird for weeks and now you're blowing me off for beer. What's going on? I looked at the screen showing Jessica's activity, then made a decision. Can you meet me at the gym? I need to hit something, and I need to talk. Now? Now. 30 minutes later, I was wrapping my hands while Barry set up the heavy bag. The gym was empty except for us, which was perfect for what I needed to say. My wife is cheating on me, I said without preamble, throwing my first punch. Barry didn't even blink. I figured. How long have you known? Officially? About 3 months. Unofficially, probably longer. Another punch, harder this time. What are you going to do about it? That was Barry, straight to the point, no wasted sympathy. It's why we'd been friends for 15 years. I'm going to destroy her, I said, settling into a rhythm with the bag. Legally, socially, financially. I'm going to take everything she thought she was going to take from me. Barry nodded slowly. Need help? Maybe. But first, I need to see how deep this goes. I told him about Chad, about the credit card trap, about Jessica's plans for the divorce. Barry listened without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions. She's underestimated you, he said when I finished. That's what I'm counting on. The credit card trap worked better than I'd hoped. Over the next week, Jessica made several small purchases, testing the waters, making sure the card was real. A spa treatment here, a nice dinner there, nothing that would raise immediate suspicion. Then came the big one. I was in my home office when the alert hit my phone. Someone had just charged $8,000 to the card at a travel agency downtown. I pulled up the details and felt my jaw clench. 2 round-trip tickets to Paris, premium economy, hotel reservations at a boutique place in Montmartre, all booked under Jessica Thompson and Chad Morrison. They weren't even trying to be subtle anymore. I sat back in my chair and considered my options. I could confront Jessica now, demand explanations, file for divorce. It would be clean, simple, and completely unsatisfying. Or I could let them take their little trip and see how much rope they'd hang themselves with. I chose option 2. That evening, Jessica was practically glowing with excitement she was trying to hide. I've been thinking about what you said, she announced over dinner, about money being tight. Oh? Maybe I should get a job, something part-time just to help out. I almost laughed. Jessica hadn't worked since we got married, claiming she was finding herself through various expensive hobbies and volunteer positions. That's thoughtful of you, I said. What kind of job were you thinking? Marina mentioned she might need help at the spa. It wouldn't pay much, but every little bit helps, right? Right. I nodded seriously. When would you start? Well, she wants to send me to a training seminar first, in Europe. It's a new wellness technique that's very popular over there. The lies came so easily to her. I wondered how long she'd been this good at deception, or if desperation had sharpened her skills. Europe? I raised an eyebrow. That sounds expensive. Marina's covering it. She says it's an investment in the business. How long would you be gone? Just a week. Maybe 10 days at the most. I pretended to consider this. I guess if Marina's paying for it. Jessica's face lit up. Really? You don't mind? If it helps our financial situation, how can I mind? She practically bounced out of her chair to hug me. Thank you, honey. You're the best. The best. Right. After she went upstairs, I called Barry. They're taking a trip to Paris, I told him, on my dime using my credit card. When? Next week, looks like. What's the play? I'd been thinking about that. Jessica and Chad thought they were being clever, but they'd just handed me the perfect opportunity. I'm going to throw them a going-away party they'll never forget. The next few days were a flurry of activity. Jessica shopped for the trip, getting her hair done, buying new clothes, all charged to various cards I was monitoring. She told everyone about her business trip to Europe, how excited she was to learn new techniques for Marina's spa. Meanwhile, I was making preparations of my own. First, I reached out to some old contacts in the cybersecurity world. There's an informal network of people in my field who share information about threats, scams, and interesting cases. I put the word out that I was working on a social engineering project and needed some help with documentation. Within 48 hours, I had everything I needed. Second, I started making some calls around town. Our community wasn't huge, maybe 15,000 people. and Jessica had made herself visible through her various social activities. She was on the planning committee for the annual charity auction, volunteered at the library, and was a regular at the country club's tennis league. All those connections were about to become very important. The night before Jessica's departure, I suggested we have a quiet dinner at Romano's, the nicest restaurant in town. She agreed, probably feeling guilty about the lies she'd been telling. Romano's was perfect for my purposes, intimate enough for a private conversation, but public enough that people would notice us. Specifically, people would notice Jessica's behavior. We were seated at a corner table, and Jessica seemed nervous. She kept checking her phone and glancing around the restaurant. "Expecting someone?" I asked. "No, just... Marina wanted me to text her when we got here. She's excited about tomorrow." "About your business trip?" "Right. My business trip." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Jessica, I want you to know how proud I am of you." She blinked. "Proud?" "For taking initiative, for wanting to contribute to our household. I know I haven't been the most exciting husband lately. Work's been stressful and I've been distracted." Her face went through several expressions: surprise, guilt, something that might have been regret. "Ethan, you don't have to..." "Yes, I do." I squeezed her hand. "I want you to have an amazing time in Europe. Learn everything you can. Take pictures. Enjoy yourself." "I will," she said quietly. "And when you get back, maybe we can plan a real vacation. Just the two of us. Somewhere special." For a moment, I thought she might break. Her eyes got watery, and she looked like she wanted to say something important. Then her phone buzzed, and the moment passed. "I should check this," she said, pulling her hand away. "It might be Marina." It wasn't Marina. I knew because I could see the reflection of her screen in the window behind her. It was Chad, asking if she was ready for tomorrow. She typed back quickly, "Can't wait." I smiled and raised my wine glass. "To new adventures." "To new adventures," she echoed, clinking her glass against mine. Neither of us knew how prophetic those words would be. Jessica left for the airport the next morning with 2 suitcases and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I kissed her goodbye at the door and told her to have a safe trip. "I'll miss you," she said. "I'll miss you too," I replied, and for a moment, I almost meant it. Then I watched her get into the Uber and disappear down our street, and I got to work. Phase 1 of Operation. Jessica's comeuppance was about to begin. I'd spent weeks preparing for this moment, setting up automated systems that would trigger once Jessica and Chad were safely out of the country. The beauty of modern technology is that you can accomplish a lot without ever leaving your house. First, the financial moves. I had legal access to all our joint accounts, and I'd been careful to document every fraudulent charge Jessica had made. The credit card she'd used for the Paris trip was in my name only, which meant I could dispute the charges as unauthorized use. I called the credit card company and reported the card stolen. Within an hour, it was frozen, leaving Jessica and Chad stranded in Paris with no way to pay for their romantic getaway. But that was just the appetizer. Next, I activated the social media campaign I'd been preparing. Over the past month, I'd been collecting screenshots, photos, and evidence of Jessica's affair. Nothing obtained illegally, just information that was freely available on social media, combined with the evidence from my own home security system. I created a simple website called therealjessicathompson.com and populated it with a timeline of the affair. Hotel receipts, restaurant photos, text message screenshots, the ones she'd foolishly sent from our shared iPad, and a detailed breakdown of how much money she'd spent on her lover. Then, I sent the link to 3 people: Sarah Mitchell, the biggest gossip in our neighborhood, Tom Bradley, who ran the local newspaper's online community section, and Jennifer Walsh, who organized the charity auction committee where Jessica was supposed to be a key volunteer. I didn't have to wait long for results. My phone started ringing around noon. The first call was from Barry. Jesus Christ, Ethan. Did you really put up a website about Jessica? You've seen it? Half the town's seen it. It's all over Facebook. Perfect. Social media moves faster than wildfire in a small community. The second call was from my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. Ethan, dear, I just wanted you to know that we're all thinking of you during this difficult time. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. I appreciate the support. That woman never deserved you. We all knew something was off about her. Interesting. Apparently, Jessica's reputation hadn't been as solid as she'd thought. By evening, I had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Some were from friends offering support, others from acquaintances fishing for gossip, and a few from Jessica's friends demanding I take down the website. I ignored them all and focused on Phase 2. Jessica called me around 9 p.m. Paris time. She was crying. Ethan, what did you do? Our credit card isn't working and people are sending me horrible messages. I reported the card stolen, I said calmly. Someone was using it to make unauthorized purchases. You know it was me. I told you about the business trip. You told me Marina was paying for your business trip, but according to my records, you charged $8,000 to my credit card for 2 tickets to Paris. Care to explain why your business seminar requires 2 people? Silence. Jessica, are you still there? It's not what you think, she said finally. Really? Because I think my wife is in Paris with her lover, using money she stole from me to fund a romantic getaway. Am I wrong? More silence. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to figure out how to get home on your own. You're going to pack your things, and you're going to find somewhere else to live. Because when you get back, the locks will be changed. You can't do that. It's my house too. Actually, I can. The house is in my name only. Check the deed if you don't believe me. That was true. When we'd bought the house, Jessica's credit was too poor to qualify for the mortgage. She'd insisted it didn't matter because we were married, but legally, the house was mine. Ethan, please, let me explain. I hung up. The next morning brought fresh developments. Tom Bradley had picked up the story for the community section, running a tasteful piece about infidelity in the social media age that managed to mention Jessica by name several times. More importantly, I received a call from Detective Ray Morrison, no relation to Chad, thankfully. Mr. Thompson, this is Detective Morrison with the County Sheriff's Office. We've received some complaints about a website you allegedly created. What kind of complaints? Harassment, invasion of privacy, that sort of thing. I'm going to need you to come in and answer some questions. I'd been expecting this. Am I under arrest? No, sir. We just want to hear your side of the story. I'll be there this afternoon. The interview was straightforward. Detective Morrison was a professional who seemed more interested in the facts than the drama. Everything on this website, he said, pulling up therealjessicathompson.com on his computer. You obtained legally? Yes, sir. Security cameras on my own property, financial records from accounts I have legal access to, and social media posts that were publicly available. And the credit card charges? Unauthorized use of my personal credit card. I have documentation showing that my wife claimed someone else was paying for her trip. Morrison nodded. I have to ask, what's your end game here? What do you hope to accomplish? I thought about that. Detective, my wife spent months planning to destroy my life. She was going to take my house, my savings, everything I've worked for, all while lying to my face and sleeping with another man. I'm not trying to hurt her. I'm trying to protect myself. By humiliating her publicly? By exposing the truth. If the truth is humiliating, that's on her. Morrison closed his laptop. Mr. Thompson, I can't find anything illegal about what you've done, but I'd advise you to be careful. Revenge has a way of spiraling out of control. This isn't revenge, detective. This is justice. As I left the police station, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Chad. I smiled and typed back, I'm listening. Meet me at Murphy's Bar tonight, 8 p.m. Murphy's was a dive bar on the wrong side of town, the kind of place where conversations happened in dark corners and nobody asked too many questions. Perfect. See you there, I replied. It was time to meet my wife's lover face to face. Murphy's Bar looked exactly like what it was, a place where people went to drink away their problems and pretend the outside world didn't exist. The neon beer signs cast everything in a sickly red glow, and the air smelled like stale cigarettes and broken dreams. Chad was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a half-empty bottle of beer in front of him. He looked different than I'd expected, smaller somehow, less impressive than the smooth operator Jessica had described. I bought a beer at the bar and walked over to his table. Chad Morrison, I presume. He looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. Ethan Thompson. You're not what I expected either. What did you expect? Someone less calm. He gestured to the seat across from him. Jessica said you were boring, but she never mentioned you were dangerous. I sat down. Dangerous is a strong word. Is it? You destroyed her life in 48 hours. Her friends won't talk to her. Her family is ashamed, and she's stranded in Paris with no money and no way to get home. She destroyed her own life. I just documented it. Chad took a long pull from his beer. Fair enough. So what happens now? That depends on you. On me? I leaned forward. Here's what I know about you, Chad. You're 34 years old, divorced, behind on your child support, and your sales numbers at the dealership have been slipping for 6 months. You saw Jessica as a meal ticket, a bored housewife with access to money, and a husband who traveled for work. His face went pale. How do you know all that? I'm very good at research. The question is, what are you going to do now that your meal ticket is canceled? Chad stared at his beer bottle, peeling the label with nervous fingers. What do you want from me? I want you to disappear. Find a new job, preferably in another state. Stop taking Jessica's calls. Move on with your life. And if I don't? I pulled out my phone and showed him a folder labeled Chad Morrison, Personnel File. Then I start sharing what I've learned about you with your boss, your ex-wife's lawyer, and anyone else who might find it interesting. He scrolled through the folder, his face getting paler with each screen. You can't prove any of this. I don't have to prove it. I just have to raise questions. How long do you think you'll keep your job once your boss starts wondering about those missing car titles? Or when your ex-wife finds out about the income you haven't been reporting? Chad set the phone down carefully. You're a real piece of work, you know that. I'm a man protecting his interests. Nothing more, nothing less. What about Jessica? What happens to her? That's not your concern anymore. He finished his beer in one long gulp and stood up. You win, Thompson. I'm done with this whole mess. Smart choice. He started to walk away, then turned back. For what it's worth, she really did love you once. She told me about when you first met, how you made her laugh. Maybe if you'd paid more attention. Maybe if she'd talked to me instead of running to you, we wouldn't be here. Chad nodded and walked out of the bar, leaving me alone with my thoughts and my beer. I should have felt victorious. Phase 2 of my plan was complete. Chad was out of the picture. Jessica was stranded and humiliated, and I had all the evidence I needed for a favorable divorce settlement. But sitting in that dim bar, I felt something else entirely. Empty, maybe, or just tired. My phone rang. Jessica again. Ethan, please, I'm begging you, I don't have anywhere to go. Figure it out. I can't get a flight home without money. My cards aren't working, and Chad won't return my calls. Chad's moved on, smart man. Please, I know I hurt you, but I'm still your wife. No, I said quietly. You stopped being my wife the moment you decided to betray me. You're just someone I used to know. I'll do anything. I'll sign whatever papers you want, give you whatever you need for the divorce. Just help me get home. I considered this. Having Jessica sign papers while she was desperate and stranded would certainly make the legal proceedings smoother. There's a Western Union near your hotel. I'll wire you enough money for a coach ticket home. In exchange, you'll sign a separation agreement that gives me the house, the cars, and my business assets. Done. And Jessica? When you get back, you have 24 hours to collect your personal belongings. After that, anything left in the house goes to charity. I understand. After I hung up, I sat in Murphy's for another hour, thinking about the past 12 years. Jessica and I had been happy once, or at least I'd thought we were. We'd talked about having kids, growing old together, all the usual dreams that young couples share. When had it all gone wrong? When had she decided I wasn't enough for her? Maybe Chad was right. Maybe if I'd paid more attention, been more romantic, less focused on work and more focused on her, things would have been different. But then I remembered her voice on that first night in the garage, talking about what I deserved and didn't deserve. The coldness in her planning, the casual way she'd discussed taking everything I'd worked for. No. This wasn't about romance or attention or any of the usual reasons marriages fail. This was about character, and Jessica had shown me exactly who she really was. I finished my beer and headed home to an empty house that finally felt like mine again. Jessica returned from Paris 3 days later, looking like a woman who'd been through a war and lost. I watched from the living room window as her taxi pulled into our driveway, noting how she sat in the back seat for a full minute before getting out. She'd aged in the week she'd been gone. Her hair was stringy, her clothes wrinkled, and she moved like someone carrying a heavy weight. I opened the front door before she could knock. "Hello, Jessica." "Hello, Ethan." We stood there for a moment, two people who'd shared a life now facing each other as strangers. "The separation papers are on the kitchen table," I said. "Your lawyer can review them if you want, but the terms aren't negotiable." She nodded and walked past me into the house. Everything looked the same as when she'd left, but somehow different. Colder, maybe, or just more honest about what it had always been. Jessica sat at the kitchen table and read through the papers slowly. I'd been generous, considering the circumstances. She could keep her car, her jewelry, and half of our small savings account. Everything else stayed with me. "This is fair," she said finally. "More than fair." She signed the papers without argument, her signature shaky but legible. "I've packed most of your clothes," I said. "They're in boxes in the garage. If there's anything else you need, now's the time." "Where am I supposed to go?" "Marina's, I assume. She's your business partner." Jessica laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Marina won't return my calls. Apparently having a public scandal is bad for the spa's image." "Then find somewhere else." "My parents won't talk to me. My sister hung up on me yesterday. Everyone in town thinks I'm some kind of monster." I felt a flicker of something. Not quite sympathy, but close. "You made your choices, Jessica. Actions have consequences." "I know." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I know I hurt you. I know I betrayed your trust. But did you have to destroy everything? My reputation, my friendships, my whole life?" "I didn't destroy anything. I just showed people who you really are. Who I really am." Her voice rose. "I'm a woman who made a mistake. I was lonely and confused, and Chad made me feel special. It was stupid and selfish, but it wasn't evil. It wasn't just a mistake, Jessica. It was months of planning. You were going to take everything from me and leave me with nothing. I never would have gone through with it." "Really? Then why the lawyer consultations? Why the financial planning? Why the elaborate lies about business trips and training seminars?" She didn't have an answer for that. "You want to know the truth?" I continued. "I could have handled the affair. People cheat, marriages fail, it happens. But the calculated way you went about it, the way you looked me in the eye every day while planning my destruction, that's what I can't forgive." Jessica stood up from the table. "I should go pack my things." "Good idea." She headed upstairs and I heard her moving around in our bedroom. Former bedroom, I corrected myself. Drawers opening and closing, hangers rattling in the closet. My phone rang. Barry. How are you holding up? He asked. Fine. She's here now, packing. And then? And then it's over. You sure about that? I looked up at the ceiling, listening to Jessica's footsteps above me. What do you mean? Revenge is like a drug, Ethan. The first hit feels good, but it's never enough. You've humiliated her, isolated her, taken away everything she cared about. But I know you, and I know that angry part of your brain is already thinking about what comes next. There is no next. She signs the papers, takes her stuff, and we get divorced. End of story. Is it? Before I could answer, I heard a crash from upstairs, followed by sobbing. I hung up on Barry and went to investigate. Jessica was sitting on the floor of our bedroom, surrounded by broken glass from a picture frame. It was our wedding photo, the two of us looking impossibly young and happy, convinced we'd found forever. I'm sorry, she said, not looking at me. I'll clean it up. Don't worry about it. She picked up the photograph, now separated from its broken frame. We were so happy that day. We were. When did we stop being happy? I thought about that. I don't know. Maybe we never stopped. Maybe we just stopped trying. I did love you, she said quietly. I still do, in a way. I know. Then why couldn't you forgive me? Because love isn't enough, Jessica. It never was. She nodded and went back to packing. An hour later, she was loading boxes into her car while I watched from the porch. I'm staying at a motel on Route 9, she said, if you need to reach me about the divorce. Okay. She got in her car, then rolled down the window. Ethan, I hope someday you can find someone who makes you happy. Really happy. I hope you can too. She drove away, and I watched until her taillights disappeared around the corner. The house felt different with her gone. Not better or worse, just different. Quieter. More like mine. I went back inside and started cleaning up the broken glass from our wedding picture. As I swept, I found myself looking at the photograph. Two kids who thought they knew everything about love and life, posing for a future that would never come. I almost threw the picture away, then changed my mind and put it in a drawer. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because it felt like evidence of something that had mattered once. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for the money to come home. I've signed the papers and left them on the table. I'm sorry for everything. Jessica. I deleted the message without responding. Outside, it was starting to rain. One of those cold October storms that strips the leaves from the trees and reminds you that winter is coming. I made myself a sandwich and a cup of coffee and sat at the kitchen table where Jessica had signed our separation agreement. The house was quiet, except for the rain on the windows and the hum of the refrigerator. For the first time in months, I felt something approaching peace. My phone rang again. This time, it was Detective Morrison. Mr. Thompson, I wanted to let you know that we've closed the complaint file on your website. No laws were broken, and frankly, the complainants don't have much credibility left. Thank you for letting me know. There is one more thing. We've received some information about fraudulent activities at Premier Auto Sales. Nothing to do with you, but your website helped bring some things to light. Chad Morrison is cooperating with our investigation. I see. Justice has a funny way of working itself out, doesn't it? Sometimes. After Morrison hung up, I sat in the quiet house and thought about justice. Had I gotten it? Jessica was ruined, Chad was facing legal troubles, and I had everything I'd wanted to protect. So why didn't I feel better? Maybe Barry was right. Maybe revenge was like a drug, and the come-down was always worse than the high. Or maybe this was just what winning looked like when everybody loses something in the process. I finished my sandwich and went to bed early, in a house that was finally, completely mine. 6 months later, I was rebuilding my life one piece at a time. The divorce had been finalized without drama. Jessica had kept her word about the separation agreement, and our lawyers had handled the paperwork efficiently. I'd heard through the small-town gossip network that she'd moved to a city 3 hours away, found a job at a marketing firm, and was trying to start over. Good for her, I thought. Everyone deserves a second chance. Chad had plea-bargained his way out of serious jail time, but lost his job and his car salesman license. Last I heard, he was working construction and had moved back in with his mother. As for me, I'd thrown myself into work and was doing better than ever. Word had gotten around about my problem-solving skills, and I had more cybersecurity consulting work than I could handle. I was also dating someone new, a woman named Sarah who worked at the library and had no interest in drama, social climbing, or expensive European vacations. She liked quiet dinners, old movies, and the fact that I could fix her computer when it acted up. Life was good, peaceful, exactly what I'd thought I wanted. So why was I sitting in my garage at midnight, staring at a new email that had just arrived in my secure inbox? The sender was anonymous, but the subject line made my blood run cold. You didn't win. I opened the message with trembling fingers. Mr. Thompson, you think you're so smart, don't you? You think you destroyed Jessica and Chad and rode off into the sunset like some kind of hero. But you missed something big. Check your bank accounts. Check them now. A friend. I grabbed my laptop and logged into my banking system, my heart pounding. At first, everything looked normal. My checking account, savings account, business accounts, all showing the balances I expected. Then I checked the credit monitoring system I'd set up after Jessica's betrayal. My blood turned to ice. Someone had opened 17 new credit accounts in my name over the past 3 months. Credit cards, personal loans, even a mortgage application for a house in Florida. The total exposure was over $300,000. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that all the applications had been submitted from IP addresses I recognized. My own home network. Someone had been using my internet connection, probably my own security system, to systematically destroy my financial life, and they'd been doing it slowly, carefully, in a way that wouldn't trigger immediate alerts. I ran upstairs to my home office and started pulling up logs from my network security system. What I found made my hands shake. For the past 6 months, someone had been accessing my home network remotely. They'd been inside my system, watching my communications, monitoring my activities, and using my own tools against me. The access had started 3 days after Jessica left for Paris, which meant someone had been planning this since the beginning. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Ethan. The voice was electronically disguised, but I could tell it was female. Who is this? Someone who's been watching you for a very long time. Someone who knows exactly what kind of man you really are. What do you want? I want you to understand something. Jessica wasn't the villain in your little story. She was just a lonely woman who made some bad choices. But you're something else entirely. I protected myself from someone who was trying to destroy me. No. You destroyed a human being because your ego couldn't handle being cheated on. You turned her into a pariah, isolated her from everyone she cared about, and then convinced yourself you were the hero. She made her own choices. And now you get to live with yours. The line went dead. I sat in my office, staring at the evidence of my own destruction, and felt something I hadn't experienced in months: fear. Whoever was doing this had been planning it for half a year. They'd watched me celebrate my victory over Jessica, watched me build my new life with Sarah, watched me convince myself that I'd won, and all the while, they'd been systematically destroying me. My phone buzzed with a text message from Sarah. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. I love you. I stared at the message and felt my stomach drop. If someone was targeting me this methodically, Sarah could be in danger too. I called her immediately. Ethan, it's late. Is everything okay? Sarah, I need you to listen to me carefully. Don't go home tonight. Go to a hotel, somewhere public and safe. What? Why? I can't explain right now, but someone is trying to hurt me, and they might try to hurt you too. You're scaring me. I'm scared too. Just please do what I'm asking. After I convinced Sarah to find a safe place for the night, I sat back and tried to think. Who could be doing this? Who had the skills, the access, and the motivation to wage this kind of long-term campaign against me? The answer came to me slowly, like a puzzle piece clicking into place. Marina. Jessica's best friend and business partner, the woman who'd supposedly cut ties with Jessica after the scandal, the woman who'd been in our house dozens of times over the years, who'd had access to our home network, who knew our routines, our passwords, our weaknesses, the woman who'd always seemed a little too interested in my work, my computer setup, my security systems. I pulled up everything I could find about Marina Walsh. On the surface, she was exactly what she appeared to be, a successful businesswoman who ran a high-end spa. But as I dug deeper, using all the investigative skills I'd honed during my campaign against Jessica, a different picture emerged. Marina had a computer science degree from MIT that she'd never mentioned. She'd worked for 3 different tech companies before moving to our small town and opening her spa, and according to public records, she'd been involved in 2 previous lawsuits involving business disputes that had been settled out of court. More importantly, she'd been Jessica's friend long before Jessica and I got married. They'd known each other since college, which meant she'd been watching me for 12 years. My phone rang again. This time, I was ready. Hello, Marina? A pause. Very good, Ethan. I wondered how long it would take you to figure it out. What do you want? I want you to understand what it feels like to have your life destroyed by someone you trusted. Jessica betrayed me. I was defending myself. Jessica made a mistake. A stupid, selfish mistake that she regretted every day. But instead of trying to save your marriage, you decided to destroy her. You turned her into a cautionary tale for your own amusement. She was planning to take everything from me. She was planning to leave you. There's a difference. But your ego couldn't handle that, could it? You had to make sure she lost everything. I thought about that. Had Jessica really been planning to destroy me, or had I just assumed the worst because it justified what I wanted to do to her? It doesn't matter now, I said. What's done is done. Yes, it is. And now you get to live with the consequences. Over the next few weeks, creditors are going to start calling. Your credit score is going to collapse. Your business reputation will be destroyed when word gets out that you can't manage your own finances. I can prove the accounts were opened fraudulently. Can you? Because I've been very careful to make it look like you opened them yourself. Using your own computer, your own network, even your own digital signatures. It's going to be very hard to prove you didn't do this to yourself. She was right. I could see the elegant trap she'd constructed. Even if I could eventually prove fraud, the damage would be done. My business would be ruined, my relationship with Sarah would be destroyed, and I'd spend years rebuilding what she'd torn down in months. Why? I asked. Why go to all this trouble for someone who betrayed you too? Jessica didn't betray me. She was my friend, and she was hurting. And instead of helping her, I watched you destroy her. I should have stopped you then. This is me making up for lost time. So what happens now? Now you get to choose. You can fight this, spend years in legal battles trying to prove your innocence while your life falls apart around you. Or what? Or you can disappear, leave town, start over somewhere else, and never contact Jessica or anyone from your old life again. And if I do that, then the financial attacks stop, the accounts get closed, you get to keep what's left of your reputation. What about Sarah? Sarah gets to move on with her life without being dragged down by your mistakes. I sat in my office looking at the ruins of my carefully constructed revenge and realized that Marina was offering me the same choice I'd given Jessica 6 months ago: accept destruction or disappear. The irony wasn't lost on me. How long do I have to decide? 24 hours. After that, things get much worse for you. She hung up, leaving me alone with the consequences of my own actions. I spent the rest of the night thinking about choices and consequences, about the difference between justice and revenge, about the price of winning when everybody loses. By morning, I'd made my decision. I called Sarah first. I have to go away, I told her. Something's happened, and I need to disappear for a while. What are you talking about? Ethan, you're scaring me. I'm sorry, I wish I could explain, but I can't. Just know that I love you, and this isn't your fault. Don't do this. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it together. No, we can't. Some things can't be fixed. I hung up before she could argue further. Next, I called Barry. I'm leaving town, I told him. Today. What the hell happened? I got too clever for my own good. Turns out revenge is a game that everyone can play. Ethan, talk to me. What's going on? Remember what you said about revenge being like a drug? You were right. And now, it's time to pay the dealer. I packed everything I could fit in my truck. Clothes, computers, the cash I kept in my safe for emergencies. Everything else would have to stay behind. Before I left, I wrote 2 letters. The first was to Sarah, explaining as much as I could without putting her in danger. I told her I loved her, that she deserved better than the chaos I'd brought into her life, and that she should forget about me and find someone who could give her the peaceful life she wanted. The second letter was to Jessica. I found her address through the same investigative techniques I'd used to destroy her, and I wrote her a simple message. I'm sorry. You were right about who I really am. I hope you find happiness somewhere far away from the wreckage I created. Ethan. I left both letters with Barry, along with instructions to mail them after I was gone. Then I got in my truck and drove out of town, leaving behind 12 years of marriage, 6 months of revenge, and the ruins of everything I'd thought I wanted. As I passed the city limits sign, I thought about Marina's final lesson. She'd shown me that there's always someone smarter, someone more patient, someone willing to play a longer game. I'd thought I was the mastermind, but I'd just been another piece on someone else's board. The last laugh, it turned out, wasn't mine after all. But maybe that was justice too.